To video 1 of the intermediate multiplying and dividing videos. So we're going to start by talking about this idea of multiplying using area models. So the reason we're going to talk about this is because it gets us to a really important idea of how multiplication works, and we're going to use it time and time again when we do more difficult multiplication problems that are, say, 2-digit by 2-digit, or ones that involve decimals. And it's also going to help us with things like algebra and finding the area of things. So it's a fairly useful thing. So we're going to use this example, 25 times 32, and think for a moment how you would find the product. Normally you might do this kind of thing that you learn, 25 times 32, and you do some funny, this times this, and that gives you this, and this times this, and like that, and you have these zeros you have to insert, and once you go kind of boop, 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 then you get to add them all up, and you would kind of end up with a total of something like 800. Well, exactly 800. So that's your product would be 800. We'll come back to this in a moment. But what we're going to talk about is a way to visualize why this thing works. And it works by taking 25 times 32 and expanding those numbers. So when we think of 25, we think of 20 and 5, or 20 plus 5. And when we think of 32, we think of 30 and 2, or 30 plus 2. And at first that doesn't help us. But if we think about this problem visually, then this becomes a very useful tool. So imagine we have a rectangle that is 25 by 32, or 25 times 32. The area of this rectangle, whatever this inside area is in here, should be whatever 25 times 32 is. What I can do is I can take these numbers, 25, and I can break it into two parts. So if this length is 25, let's make this length right here be worth 20, and this red length be 5. So now this is 25, and this is 32. And if we kind of extend those divisions along, we end up chopping this thing into 4 different rectangles. And if we're trying to find the total product, the total area of this, 25 times 32, we can break it into 4 smaller problems. So consider 20 times 30, right? That's sort of like 2 times 3, which is 6. So that would mean that 20 times 3 should be 60. So 20 times 30 should be 600. If we look at this section, we're thinking 2 times 20. 2 times 2 is 4, so 2 times 20 should give us 40. And if we look at this section, we're 30 wide and 5 high, so this would give us an area of 30 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15, so 30 times 5 should give us 150. And this last little corner is 2 by 5, and 2 times 5 is 10, so we get this little area here. You'll notice that the 4 areas that we get are the same 4 parts we get when we do multiplication by this traditional method. We have 2 times 5, 2 times 2, or 20, 3 times 5, which is 30 times 5, and 2 times 3, which is really 20 times 30. And if we add these up, we get the same product, which is 800. So this helps us to represent this idea that's called the distributive property, which will come up again later. The distributive property basically just talks about how we can multiply 2-digit numbers by breaking them into 4 different parts. So this is a good skill to practice. And so what you can do is pick any multiplication of 2-digit numbers and give this a try for yourself. So good luck with your practice, and we'll see you in the next video.